Welcome to my channel. Without further ado, let's jump right into it. You see, when I was younger, I lived in a house at the edge of the village. My family raised chickens, pigs, and even a few cows. At night, we would sit around the fire, eat our meals, and talk about what happened during the day. But this one night, things felt different. I remember it so clearly because the moon was so big and bright, like it was watching us. That night, I couldn't sleep. I don't know why. Maybe it was the way the wind was blowing, how it rattled the wicker walls of my house. Or maybe it was just one of those nights where you feel like something's about to happen. Either way, I decided to get up and step outside. The village was quiet. Too quiet. Usually, you'd hear dogs barking, chickens clucking, or even the sound of someone coughing in their sleep. But that night, nothing. Just the sound of the wind moving through the trees. I walked a little ways from the house thinking I'd just look around and maybe calm my nerves. Now the thing about living in the mountains is that it's dark. When the moon hides behind the clouds, you can't see anything, not even your own hand in front of your face. But that night, the moonlight was bright enough to light the path down to the river. So, I decided to walk there. I figured the sound of water would make me feel better. When I got to the river, I sat down on a rock and just stared at the water. It was peaceful at first. The moon reflected off the surface, and everything seemed fine. But then, I noticed something strange. There was a figure standing on the other side of the river. At first, I thought it was just someone from the village. Maybe they couldn't sleep either and decided to take a walk, like me. But the longer I looked, the more I realized something wasn't right. The figure was too still. Not like a person standing and looking around, but like a statue, completely frozen. And it wasn't looking at the river. It was looking straight at me. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. I got scared, but I told myself, it's probably just someone playing a prank. Don't be a coward. So I stood up and called out, "Hey, what are you doing over there?" No response. I called again, louder this time. "Hey, who are you? What do you want?" Still nothing. The figure didn't move. It just kept standing there, staring at me. And then I noticed something else. It wasn't standing on the ground. It was floating. My legs started shaking, and my heart was beating so fast, I thought it was going to explode. I wanted to run, but my body wouldn't move. I just stood there, staring back at it, like I was in some kind of trance. Then, it started to move. It didn't walk or glide smoothly like you'd expect. Instead, it made this strange, jerky motion, like it was struggling to move forward. One moment, it would slide toward me, almost as if it was skating on the water, but then it would stop and twitch, its body snapping awkwardly side to side. It would lean too far to one side, its head twisting unnaturally, before it corrected itself and shot forward again. The worst part was how it seemed to bend in ways a human body shouldn't. Its arms flailed oddly, as if they were trying to swim, but they didn't touch the water. And its legs, oh man, its legs, they didn't even move together. One would bend backward, the other forward, making the whole thing look disjointed. The sound of the river didn't change, but somehow, the silence around that thing made its movements even creepier. Every twitch, every jerk felt like it was aimed straight at me, like it wanted me to feel the wrongness of what I was seeing. I don't know how, but I finally managed to move. I turned and ran as fast as I could back to the village. My feet felt like they were barely touching the ground, and I didn't dare look back. When I got to the village, I ran straight to my uncle's house. He was the shaman, the one people went to when strange things happened. I banged on his door so hard I thought it was going to break. My uncle opened the door, looking half asleep. "What's wrong with you?" he asked, his voice annoyed. I tried to explain, but the words wouldn't come out right. I just kept saying, "It's coming! It's coming!" My uncle grabbed his bag of tools and told me to calm down. He lit some incense and started chanting, his voice steady and strong. The smell of the incense filled the room, and for a moment I felt a little safer. But then we heard it, a knock at the door. Not a normal knock, like someone politely asking to come in. This was slow and heavy, like whatever was outside wanted to come in badly. My uncle stopped chanting and looked at me. His face was pale, and I could see the seriousness in his eyes. He motioned for me to stay quiet and went to the door. He didn't open it. Instead, he spoke through the door in Hmong. "Who is it? What do you want?" No answer. The knocking stopped, but then we heard something even worse. A voice. It was soft, almost a whisper, but it didn't sound human. It said, "Let me in." My uncle didn't say anything. He just started chanting again, louder this time. He threw something onto the fire and the smoke grew thicker, filling the room with a strange, bitter smell. The voice outside kept calling, "Let me in! Let me in!" And then, just like that, it stopped. The silence was so sudden it felt like the whole world had gone quiet. My uncle finished his chanting and sat down, wiping the sweat from his face. He looked at me and said, "Don't ever go to the river alone at night again. Do you understand?" I nodded, but I couldn't speak. The next morning we went back to the river. My uncle wanted to see if there were any signs of what had happened. When we got there, the place looked normal. The water was flowing, the rocks were in their usual spots, and the sunlight made everything seem peaceful. But then my uncle pointed to the ground. There were footprints. Not human footprints. These were bigger, deeper, and they didn't look like anything I'd ever seen before. They started on the other side of the river and stopped right where I had been standing. My uncle said a prayer and told me to forget what I saw. He said some things are better left alone, and that whatever I had encountered that night wasn't something I could understand. I thought it was over. After that night at the river and my uncle's chants, life seemed to go back to normal. But a few weeks later, I learned the hard way that it wasn't over. It was late at night, and I was sound asleep in my bed. The house was quiet, the way it always was, with nothing but the sound of the wind outside. Then, out of nowhere, I woke up. At first, I didn't know why. My room was pitch black, and everything seemed still. But then I heard it, a knock. Except it wasn't at the door. It was on the wall, my bedroom wall. At first, I thought maybe it was a branch scraping against the house. But the knock came again, just like that night at my uncle's door, slow, heavy. Then I heard the voice. "Let me in." My blood turned to ice. It was the same voice, that same soft, unnatural whisper. It spoke again. "Let me in." I froze, lying in bed, too scared to move. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. The voice kept repeating over and over, "Let me in! Let me in!" I squeezed my eyes shut, hoping it would go away, but the knocking didn't stop. It felt like it went on forever. Every time I thought it was over, the knock would come again, followed by that horrible voice. Somehow I made it through the night. I didn't sleep, I just lay there trembling under my blanket, waiting for the first light of dawn. When the sun finally rose, the knocking stopped, and the voice was gone. As soon as it was morning, I ran straight to my uncle's house. He was sitting outside, drinking his tea like it was just another day. When he saw me, he didn't even ask what was wrong. He could tell just by looking at my face. "It came back, didn't it?" he asked. I nodded. "It knocked on my wall all night. It kept asking to be let in." My uncle didn't say much. He just sighed and went back into the house. When he came back out, he was holding a sword. It wasn't just any sword. This one was old, and I could feel something coming from it. People said it had special power, that it could protect us from things not of this world. "Come on," he said. "Where are we going?" I asked. "To the river." The walk to the river felt like the longest walk of my life. My uncle didn't say a word the entire time, and I was too scared to ask any questions. When we got there, he stopped and looked around, his eyes scanning the riverbank. "Show me where it was," he said. I pointed pointed to the spot where I had seen the figure that night. My uncle walked over and stood there for a moment, holding his sword in one hand. Then he knelt down and started digging with his other hand. The ground was soft from the river's edge, so it didn't take long for him to make a hole. He took the sword and laid it in the hole, then covered it with dirt. When he was done, he stood up and said a prayer, his voice low and steady. The words he used were old, ones I didn't fully understand. When he finished, he turned to me and said, "It's done. It won't bother you anymore." I wanted to believe him, but part of me still felt uneasy. What if it came back again? What if burying the sword wasn't enough? But my uncle was right. After that day, I never heard the voice again. The knocking stopped, and life went back to normal. Even now, years later, I still think about that night sometimes. I wonder what it was that I saw at the river, what it wanted from me, and why it came to me in the first place. I don't have any answers, and maybe I never will. Thank you for listening to this video. I'll see you in the next one.